Assalamualaikum everyone, maing buntag sa tanan o maing hapon or kung saan asa ka man karon. So I'd like to share with you another presentation about the peace process. So kung ano yung nakikita niyo sa picture, all over the world there is war, chaos, and everything. It can be man-made or it can be a natural disaster. Now, the question, especially the man-made disaster. What started all the violence? Is there a way to end the conflict? Yes? And how? I think in your mind, you have all the ideas of the answers. Am I right? Well, just keep it in your mind, and in your conversation with each other, you can share that one. What started all the violence, and is there a way to end the conflict? So what about this peace process? Peace process comes from having able to contribute the best that we have and all that we are toward creating a world that supports everyone. But it is also securing the space for others to contribute the best that they have and all that they are. That's according to Hafsat Abiola. So that's all about peace process, our contribution, the best that we have, and all that we are. So each one of us, we can be a contributor of the so-called peace process, especially here in our land in Mindanao. So the objective of this presentation, explain the different political groups that were engaged in armed confrontation with the armed forces of the government and deliberate on the strategies used to end the conflicts non-violently. Then second, discuss intelligently. Kahit na recorded lang ito, but at least you have the idea. The issues raised by the different political groups as their rallying point in going against the government, then critically analyze objectives on having peace process with different political groups, then deliberate critically on the provisions of the peace agreement between the MNLF and the GRP and the ongoing peace process with the MILF. Then next is identify the issues that led to the failure on the agreements with specific political groups and the failure of peace process itself. So these are our objective in this presentation. Remember this, the first woman president in our country, President Corazon Aquino. Efforts have been made during her time to enter the peaceful negotiation or settlement with the rebel groups. Then the negotiation or settlement, the attempt to settle the conflicts non-violently. So ito yon inumpisahan ni Corazon Aquino to the NPA and to our groups here in Mindanao. Then, peace process with armed groups in the Philippines. Forces of the Philippines in the Republic, the forces of the government of the Republic of the Philippines have been engaged in armed confrontation with the different rebels. One of the approaches in attaining peace in the country, particularly here in our land, Mindanao. The Sub-Saharan, in the dreams of Hyderian, and did not prove to be effective in resolving conflict, then worsened the situation. Military operations did not show any improvement in the peace conditions in our country, particularly here in Mindanao. Then these are the political groups. The Moro National Liberation Front, the Communist Party of the Philippines, the New People's Front, the National Democratic, of course, ang atin, the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, and the Revolusionaryong Alyansang Makabayan, the Young Officers Union, or the RAM, the U, headed noon by Trillanes and the rest of the group. Remember the Oakwood, and that was the time, during that time. Pero ngayon, okay na yan sila. Then, in the Philippines, the peace process in the Philippines, take note on this. Lalabas ito sa ating quiz. Or not quiz, but our exam. So in the Philippines, this peace process was institutionalized and strengthened by an executive order 125. So we have a Philippine peace process with the executive order 125. It was issued on September 15, 1993. Defines the approach for the comprehensive peace process and the creation of the Office of the Presidential Advisor on Peace Process, OPAP yan noon, ngayon nagiging OPAP Pro, headed by Galvez ngayon. Aims to attain the genuine and lasting peace in the country by setting the framework on peace process. So remember this executive order 125. It was issued on 15 September 1993. So medyo matagal-tagal na. But until now, the Philippine peace process ito pa rin ginagamit. So the Philippine peace process, ito na yon. A peace process is anchored in the principle that is community-based. Community-based. Then it must lead to a new social contract or compact that would lead to equitable, just, humane, and pluralistic society. Then also, it seeks a principle and peaceful resolution of armed conflict with dignity for all concerned. So ito yung the Philippine peace process. So there are 6 parts on this Philippine peace process, which is vital component that comprise the overall comprehensive peace process in our land. So what are these 6 parts? So the Executive Order 125, as mentioned in the previous slide, mandates the government comprehensive peace efforts shall be pursued following the 6 paths as recommended by the National Unification Commission on the basis of several consultation. Okay. The first path. What is the first path of this Philippine peace process? Pursuit of social, economic, and political reform aimed at addressing the root causes of the internal conflicts and social unrest. So once again, the pursuit of social and economic and political reforms aimed at addressing the root causes of internal conflict and the social unrest, and may require administrative action, new legislation, or even constitutional amendments. Tingnan yung nasa drawing, sa diagram. The political, socio-economic reforms, kailangan ito. Then political and constitutional reforms, kailangan din in order to end the so-called hostilities. Kaya nga, peace and development, if there is peace, sinasabi, automatic yan, may development. If there is development, automatic yan, may peace. Peace and development, they go hand in hand. So, the pursuit of social, economic, political reforms in addressing the causes of the internal conflict and the social unrest. That's the first path used by our country, the Philippines. Then, consensus building and empowerment for peace. Consensus building and empowerment for peace. That's the second path. That's why here in the Philippines, meron tayong mga integration ngayon ng peace education, the curriculum, because of this. So that people will be empowered, young minds may empower na sila when we talk about peace. Kaya consensus building, empowerment for peace includes continuing consultation on the both national and local levels, then the reform agenda, then mobilization and facilitation of people's participation in peace process. Ginagawa na ito, okay? Nangyayari na ito. This is the work, of course, of the OPA Pro ngayon. Before it was OPA. Okay? May marami ng mga seminars, peace building, consensus building, para ma-empower of the so-called peace, as well as the young people nowadays. Third path, the pursuit for peaceful, negotiated settlement with different rebel groups, completion of exploratory talks holding a formal peace negotiation, then final negotiated peace settlement. So, nangyari na ito, nagawa na with the MNLF, the MILF, the other groups, medyo wala pa. The CPP-NPA, the Communist Group, wala pa, no? What do you think? Time of Duterte, hininto yung peace negotiation, the peace process. Nandiyan peace process, but the negotiation, the peace talks, medyo hininto niya. I don't know with the present government. But remember, the 6 paths still used because of that Executive Order 125. So once again, the third is the pursuit for peaceful negotiated settlement with the different rival groups. The fourth path, implementation of programs. Tingnan mo itong nasa picture. Kilala natin ito. General Hermoso. Naging spokesperson natin. Dito din, naging MP siya sa atin. So ito yung mga programs na na-implement for reconciliation, integration of the mainstream society, especially the rebel, then rehabilitation. That also includes amnesty, the measures to respond for concerns of legal status, the security, then the community-based assistance program. So ang dami-daming ginagawa ngayon. OPAP noon, ngayon the OPAP Pro. Okay? In implementing the program. Kasi para matugunan yung mga problema, the injustices na nangyari noon. So, yun yung the fourth path. The fifth, seeks to measure the welfare and protection of civilians. Okay? Seeks to measure the welfare and protection of the civilians. And I think kahit na hindi yan i-discuss, i-explain, malinaw yan. Then reduce the impact of the armed conflict on them, then recognizing the possibility of continuing hostilities even as peace is pursued by the ways of peace. So ito yung the sixth path. So therefore, there is a need to end of hostilities disposition of forces. Kaya nga ngayon sa atin nangyayari na din yan. Okay? Especially from PAV to CAV to BON. Okay? Using this sixth path. Then the fifth, so ito ba yung fifth pa rin, involves the promotion of the welfare and protection of civilians, yung sinasabi natin. Then reduce the impacts of conflicts conflicts on them, humanizing the conflict. Para lahat masaya, lahat happy, especially the children. Kaya yung sa picture naglalaro, pag paraging may gulo, hindi yan sila magkaganon kasi magka-trauma yan, natatakot yan. Okay? The sixth, top build, nurture, and enhance a positive climate for change. 6, top build, nurture and enhance a positive climate for change. This includes a continued confidence-building measures between the government and the rebel groups. So the peace advocacy and education. Kaya nga education is really, really important. That's why each one of us, it's our role. Whatever is your work, you have to do something. Kaya nga, the peace starts from within and it will radiate to our work, to the community. Of course, it starts from self then to our family. So, yun, nasa sa atin yun. Kaya nga, may trabaho tayo. We can contribute something. Okay? Hindi lang trabaho ito ng UPA-PRO, kundi trabaho nating lahat. So those are the 6 paths of peace. So there are 5 components of the implementation of the agreements in the peace process. The first is the governance and empowerment. Dito sa government natin, in the BARM, governance and empowerment, sinusulong yung moral governance. Ganda, pero medyo mahirap abutin. Okay, mahirap abutin. Then the development economic rehabilitation. Nangyayari na ba yan? Nagagawa na sa atin? Then healing and reconciliation. Mayroon na din. Inculturation of peace advocacy. Then continuing management of conflict, humanizing the conflict. So these are the 5 components on the implementation of the agreements in the peace process. What about these causes of conflict? Tingnan nyo. Communication, pwede. May mga miscommunication nga. Then, what else? Problem-solving decision-making. There is a need to dialogue, then negotiation, and mediation para yung conflict mawawala. So ito yung mga kailangan. Then structural inequities in the political system. May problema pa rin tayo dito, di ba? Especially now, palapit na ang election. And with the special concern with the environment. Nowadays, our environment is also suffering. Okay, it's also suffering. Hindi lang tayong mga tao, kundi the environment. Sinong responsible for the environmental problem? Tayo. That's why we need to protect. Because we are all stewards, of course. That's why there is a need for us na talagang gawin natin na tayong magbalantay. Tayo talaga yung steward. Kaya nga, minsan nakakalungkot dito, pag may mag-travel tayo, di ba? Mga tao, mga bata, may mga sasakyan, tapon lang ang mga basura sa labas. Pag sinundan ko, grabe, ang sakit-sakit ng loob ko. Saan ang mga parents? Paano ito makakatulong sa ating environmental protection? Kung ganon, basura dito, dinatapon kahit saan-saan. Okay. So the peace agreement within the government of the Philippines and the MNLF, noon, meron na, kaya nga in the previous talk, we have the AAA agreement, pero hindi satisfied. Pero sige lang, focuses the 3 aspects. The military aspect, that was during the time of the MNLF. MNLF members will be integrated to the AFP as well as PNP. Nangyayari. Yes. Alam natin yon. Then the political aspect also involves the creation of the key political institution and mechanisms. So this was during the time, alam natin yon, meron SPD, the CA, the ZOFAD. That's more political. The socio-economic aspect, releasing the funds for infrastructure projects. Medyo problem yan. The next, why is there a need to pursue the peace process? What do you think? Why is there a need? Kaya nga sinasabi, waging war is more expensive than campaigning for peace. Kaya kailangan talaga ito. Kagaya nito, 60 million negotiating peace between the MNLF and the GRP between 1992-1996. So, million yan then. 6 million billion spent in the 2000 all-out war of Strada administration. So, therefore, sabi nga, waging war is more expensive than campaigning for peace. Billion yan. So, that's an example. Pag ituloy-tuloy yan, babalik tayo dito, waging war is more expensive than campaigning for peace. That's why we need to pursue the so-called peace process. So, with that, I hope you learned something with the peace process. Dami-dami na nating mga topic regarding on this. Sana, kahit na-cognate lang man ninyo ito or mga major kayo, meron tayong dala-dala at natutunan. Ang bawat isa sa atin, kailangan natin, it's our responsibility, okay, to share to others. That's why it will start from ourselves to the family, then it will radiate to the community. Kaya nga, God bless everyone. Dalaygon ang Diyos.